Welcome to another episode of NAC Car Culture, your home of tough muscle cars, classic cruisers and high-performance imports. Proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars, Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Teng Tools. Get organised. Coming up in this week's show, we check out Conda's twin procharged Walkinshaw Commodore. We meet the winner of last season's NAC feature car competition and do some skids and drop by AV8 Motorsport in West Auckland. But first up, we're off to meet the man behind Hampton Downs and drift the brand new club circuit. Long before having his name on the ownership papers of New Zealand tracks like Hampton Downs and Highlands, an aspiring young Scottish driver by the name of Tony Quinn was racing Formula Fords. This life path, however, was about to change.
He had an American accent and he came to Scotland to our track and he raced against us and he absolutely blitzed us in a track that he'd never been to before, in a car that wasn't his. I, at that point, recognised that for as good as I thought I was in my local country, clearly when you see some just absolute talent, you get a reassessment of your abilities.
Hanging up the helmet, it would be 25 years before Tony found his way back behind the wheel. He would start a family and several successful businesses before reigniting his racing passion in Targa, Tasmania. While piloting a 911 GT3, Tony's first opportunity to mix business with pleasure presented itself. He joined forces with 3 other investors to launch the Carrera Cup in Australia. Tony bought the others out and 5 years later sold it for $2 million. Tony now owns the Australian GT Series. After his offer to buy out the cash-strapped Hampton Downs Motorsport Park back in 2009 was refused, he turned his attention to a small 8-metre-wide club circuit project in Cromwell. 18 short months later, and Highlands Motorsport Park was born. An offer to purchase Taupo Motorsport Park was rejected and the backlash rather public. But during this time, the owners of Hampton Downs again reached out. $13.5 million quickly changed hands. Taupo remains unsold to this day.
Like everybody, I thought it was an awesome idea. Close to Auckland, on the main highway, halfway to Hamilton, great futuristic plan for a motorsport park. Look, I think it's clear that they never had the money to complete the project. They barely had enough money to start the project and make it work. Anybody that's built a house will know what I mean. Very few people build a house on budget. And you certainly don't build a racetrack on budget. Nobody has, and nobody ever will.
Hampton Downs now had a new owner, but Tony explains that buying the track was the easy part. Realising its potential as a true world-class facility is the end goal, one that requires heavy investment to do so.
Very few people make money out of motorsport, and that's not why I do it, and it's certainly not what I'm intending to do now. But I think motorsport, like anything else, needs to be able to look after itself without begging for community trust funds or government money or taxpayers' funds or whatever. I think that's wrong. And I don't think that's sustainable, to be fair, because the world's becoming greener. People are more interested in electric cars. If you're asking people to keep infrastructure and facilities for people to bang around in their big V8s or whatever, it has to look after itself.
The shift to a sustainable model brought with it the construction of a new circuit. From a simple business perspective, it's a less high-stakes club circuit and one that could be run separately to the primary track or joined to create something to gain the interest of classes such as GT3. But good business doesn't necessarily make good TV. So on a wet and foggy Waikato morning, we figured it'd be more fun to show you around. And luckily, this guy turned up. While Mad Mike slides you around, we'll fill you in on the details. The Hampton Downs extension is 1.2 kilometres long, boasts 4 corners. One's a long sweeper, and there's a tighter back-to-back drift-friendly sequence on the northern side. The course can be linked up to the primary circuit when required, but when run individually, can keep things interesting with the option of navigating the track in either direction.
This Hampton Downs project has been a big one. You know, it's been really cool to be working with Tony on the new section. One thing I said straight away was we need to make it so we can run it clockwise or counterclockwise. We changed some elevation because, I mean, it's been dug up and kind of had the planned route for quite some time since the track was actually built. But just grafting out the ground, giving it a little bit of elevation stuff, which is really cool for drifting. Changing some of the radiuses of the turns. But it's been really cool, and to come out here and literally just jump off a plane, pull Mad Bull out of the shed and come and give it a test is amazing.
Everybody, for whatever reason, wants a long track. I don't get it myself. A long track's fine, like Bathurst or something like that, is good and unique. But for average Joe Blow, club racing, whatever it is, if the car's away for 2 minutes before it comes round, it's actually boring, very boring. So there is no need for a long track, really. And the new track that we've built is 1.2 kilometres long. Perfect. Perfect for a bunch of guys, cheap and cheerful, down there, banging around the track, safe. There's no walls, there's no nothing.
You know, Hampton for drifting is by far one of the favourites, whether it's on the new section, the section we've had here. I mean, this turn one, you can hit it well over 200 kilometres an hour, fully backwards off a blind crest into a corner that kind of cambers back out. You know, there's a variety of like hairpins and elevation, and it's a really exciting track to drift. And now to have this new section just adds to the excitement. You know, as a driver, that's what I always love, is getting to a track and, you know, linking these new corners and just pushing the boundaries of not just the car and myself, but the course and what you're able to do on it.
Mad Mike Whitted is a prime example of New Zealand talent gone big. From the local D1NZ, Mike has joined the big names of the International Formula Drift's Pro Championship, a crowd favourite with his distinctive style both in car choice and behind the wheel. Still, he's an underrated export. To get an idea of his following, we only need to click onto social media. His 2 million plus Facebook fans more than double other notable Kiwis, or black great Dan Carter, for example. Back home in New Zealand, though, we're still a small pond. But both Mike and Tony aren't sitting idly by waiting for that to change.
Oh man, it's amazing where the sport's taken me, you know. Like, I literally have travelled the world and been on a plane once without my helmet, which was for a friend's wedding in Rarotonga. To be able to make a career out of it, you need to go where the money is. And unfortunately, it's not here in New Zealand at the moment, but, you know, with facilities like this at Hampton Downs, it's only going to make it easier for other people growing and trying to, you know, make a career in motorsport.
I make money in motorsport in Australia, and I'm quite blatant about that. I'd like to see motorsport in New Zealand prosper. Australians will prosper anyway, they'll be fine. Kiwis have to work hard at it. And I think that comes out in the actual competition that's here. Any driver that wins a series in New Zealand can go overseas and do quite well. So I think it's in the blood, there's something in the water. It would be good if we continue the good work that has gone before us in motorsport New Zealand. You know, we might have had a bad decade or a bad 5 years or whatever, but it's still not too late to address the issues and together create the future.
Stick around, there's still plenty to come on NAC Car Culture. We check out Conda's twin procharged Walkinshaw, take this RX3 for a spin, and drop by AV8 Motorsport. You're back with NAC Car Culture, kindly brought to you by the good people at NAC Insurance, Teng Tools and Mount Shop. Right, as you know, we feature a lot of cars on this show, and last season, our mates at NAC Insurance gave you the chance to get in on the action too, just by sending in a clip of your pride and joy. Well, there could be only one winner. Meet Jacques and his Mazda RX-3 sedan.
It's Mazda RX-3, 1973, 30mm turbo, stage 2 porting that we've done on it. Got a B1600 diff in it, series 5 gearbox, disc brakes all around, you know, it's got all the good stuff. Started off with an RX2 actually, which was a bit of a project, but I've always sort of wanted an RX3 sedan. The dream would be the Candy Red RX3 with a bit more horsepower than this, but you know, getting there slowly.
And not only did Jacques catch the rotor bug pretty bad, it's proved contagious too. His mate, and now Mazda convert, Jeremy, got wind of the shoot and kindly came along in support. Definitely just to support.
Usually not the smoothest cruisers, I would say, just because, you know, the majority of them are all lowered, and I mean, it is an old car, you know. There's nothing like it, like you can't really beat the, well, especially with the turbos now, I think I'm pretty hooked on sort of the feeling of, you know, putting your foot down and really getting something for it, you know. And I mean, especially second and third gear, you know, if you really give it some, it's a bit of a handful. So, yeah, just that sort of adrenaline buzz you get with that kind of power is, yeah, you can't really beat the feeling. This one here is sort of, you know, it's a tough sort of street car. It's not by any means a show car. It definitely gets driven hard. Well, now with the new motor, and I mean, this is the first time really giving it a bit of punishment. So, yeah, it's good fun.
Thanks to NAC Insurance for the chance to check out Jacques' ride, and the crew at Merimeri Dragway too for letting the guys have a spin on the skid pad. Better thank our mates at Teng Tools while we're at it as well, because right now they're sending us to West Auckland to drop in on AV8 Motorsport.
It sort of started off by default because I sort of semi-retired from working at the sawmill there with my brother and family, and I just started racing cars, and then we started fixing cars and then making cars, and we carried on from there. Well, what we do a lot of fabricating, we make differentials, we do customers. We've got a customer base of probably about 15 cars, so that keeps us busy, especially when they take them out to the track and, you know, beat them up a bit, and we've got to repair them again. Previously, we've done all the fabrication work and all the bits and pieces for the V8 Super Tourers. We did, you know, 22 of those cars, made all the diffs and A-arms and assembled all the parts for dispatch from here, from this workshop. So yeah, we got plenty of work to do, and you know, just for a two-man gang, we enjoy it and have fun because it's a little family business. So really, that's all it is.
The Anderson name has plenty of history in New Zealand motor racing. Wayne and his brother Bruce campaigning their trademark yellow Pine Pack Mustangs and Falcons through the 80s and 90s, both locally and at Bathurst in 85-86. With plenty of success at tracks all around the country, they may be some of New Zealand motorsport's unsung heroes.
All good banter and rivalry between my brother Wayne and myself. Wayne's a few years younger, 7 years younger, and so he was always trying to catch up with where I was, but not literally on the track. Wayne was always quick in a race car, and so that was a challenge in itself for me. It kept the two of us progressing and you know, just wanting to go that little bit quicker.
2016 marks 30 years since the Andersons' last Bathurst campaign. And after being dogged by mechanical failures in both outings, Bruce has unfinished business. But there's a few changes this time around. Yes, both the Mustang and the driver are a wee bit older than the ones that hit the track in the mid-80s, but that's not the only number going up.
The approach to this car is a bit different, more than double the horsepower of that Group A era. So yes, you have to treat it with respect. It's a feather the throttle type car. You don't stomp on the throttle. These cars will wheel spin in almost every gear right up to top gear. So at Bathurst we're going to have a controlled speed of 280 kilometres an hour, and these cars will do that easily.
You'll have no trouble getting up the hill this time. You know, it's a huge advancement in engine technology, even though the basic 8 cylinders are still going up and down and a carburetor on top. You know, things have moved on a lot in technology. You know?
For Wayne, the sport's progression is something he's witnessed firsthand from both sides of the windscreen.
It's sort of a selfish sport, I call it, because the driver gets the most of the kicks out of doing when he does all the driving, he gets all the glory. But it's us guys back here in the workshop that do all the hard yakkers and work to present the cars. Doing driving is actually the most enjoyable part of the whole thing. A bit of adrenaline rush, I suppose, that's what it is.
It should come as little surprise then that Wayne's been piecing together his own ticket back into the action. This wide-bodied Chevrolet Monza.
Well, the Monza is a relatively small car. It's a 75 Monza. We've got a 410 cubic inch Chevrolet engine in it, running a Jericho gearbox and a Ford 9-inch rear end. And then we run a Brembo brake package. The car is reasonably light. It only weighs a whisker under 1,300 kilos, so that's got an advantage over its rivals of, like a big Falcon or a Mustang. And it's a slippery little car. It just depends if the old driver can drive it. I'll be fast down the straightaway, that won't be a problem, but getting around the corners and stopping may be a little bit different. This is probably about the 10th car I've built from ground up, so this time it's my personal use and it's my personal little baby, so I've put a little extra effort in and spent a bit extra on the painting and the panel beating and the finishing work, so to speak, and extra hours. I've spent excessive of 2,000 hours on this car. I hope I had that many hours and enjoyment out of it. But I've certainly enjoyed building it. That's my passion. I have 2 wives. I'm married next door, and I'm married to the shed next door to that. So, and unfortunately, I probably spend too much time in the shed here.
Today is the final day to get yourself in the draw to take home this 460-piece Tang Mega Master Toolkit worth almost $3.5 grand. To be in to win, simply visit themotorhood.com and follow the Tang Tools promotion link. Right, Mount Shop feature car time now. Meet Conda's twin procharged Walkinshaw Commodore, a car that certainly doesn't blend into the crowd. But that was never the point. In fact, it's the reason it got his attention in the first place.
We ended up down at Hamilton Lake one day. We didn't even know it was on, we were just driving through and there was like 30, 40 Commodores there and we're like, what's happening here? At that time it was the Auckland Commodore Car Club. And I just seen this thing with spoilers all over it and I was like, well, that stood out to any of the others, which I liked. With the Walkinshaws, people either like them or hate them. It's 50-50. I love them. I don't expect everyone else to. I went from driving a rotary to building a V8 that people told me I was mad for selling my rotary and you'll never pick up tricks in a Holden. It's like, well, I'm not buying it for that, I'm buying it for me. I don't do things to impress other people, I do it to impress myself. So yeah.
The RX-3 was sold and the hunt was on. The key ingredients? A Walkinshaw Commodore in V8 and manual. Well, 1 out of 3 isn't too bad, right?
Got it back here, it was red, it was 6-cylinder auto. Tried getting it home without anyone seeing me drive it. I wasn't into 6 cylinders back then. Found a V8 manual for it and went from there with panel paint, interior. As things have broken or been damaged over the time, I've not fixed them, I've always bettered them. Like blew the diff, so we stuck a 9-inch in, blew the T5, stuck 6-speed in. I never expected it to be supercharged, all the parts that are on it now, then the twin setup. So yeah, it's sort of just, not got out of hand, but it's just progressed to a level I didn't think it would end up as. You don't need all that horsepower, but hey, it's good to have. And it's just something it's a hobby for me. If I go 6 months down the track without doing something to the car, I'm on board. I'll pull it off the road for a year just to do something to it. It's never finished, like any car guy will tell you. So yeah, just keep building it.
The Wonky previously ran a single Brennan Racing side mount blower. But yes, that boredom crept in, and Conda figured if one was good, then 2 must be better. A twin turbo setup was debated before settling on the twin prochargers to force feed the Holden V8.
It's a Holden base V8, the V and the EFI heads and that. Normal stuff in it, H-beams. It's still 2-bolt main bottom, but with a girdle just to try and keep the bottom end together. But the VN Group A injection, which are off the 1990 VN Group A's, there's only, I think, 900 of them made. They only sold about 300 or so of them. That's why the throttle bodies are floating around. I like the look on people's faces when you pop up on it, not just on my car, but any car, and you look at it and you go, whoa, that's different. I wasn't expecting that. The new setup wasn't about chasing big horsepower, it was something different. I'll chase big horsepower a couple of years down the track, when I get bored again. People say to me, oh, it looks amazing, sounds amazing, and I'm just like, I drive the thing, but a couple of times friends have driven it. My partner drove it over the Mount one day, and she was coming down the road, and if it hadn't been my car, I would have freaked out. I would have been bowing down to it. I couldn't believe it, just the look and the sound of it. When I'm in it, it sounds totally different to probably someone on the street driving down the road. Like I said, I never thought it would get to this stage.
That was the final episode for this series of NAC Car Culture. But fear not, we'll return to your screens a little later in the year. And don't stress either if you've missed a show. Just point your browser at themotorhood.com to catch up on all our episodes. And while you're there, sign up to our totally free digital magazine. It's packed with the best bits from NZ Performance Car, NZ V8 and New Zealand Classic Car magazines. Simply enter your email address and you'll get it direct to your inbox. Easy. NAC Car Culture was proudly brought to you by NAC Insurance, specialists in modified and high-performance cars. Mount Shop, undercar specialists, and Tang Tools. Get organised.